Hey friends, Dennis Nappy II here with Sixth Sense Media, and I want to share an element of a remote viewing project I recently completed that was, I'd say, a significant point of learning for me. I say this as a student of remote viewing, just to share my experience for any of you that are going through this or may have encountered this, or maybe someone more experienced than me has some more insights into what else I can learn from this experience and this opportunity. I found an online target, and the target was D-Day, the invasion of Omaha Beach. So obviously that was a horrible battle, bloody scene of American soldiers hitting the beach, being gunned down by German soldiers, and vice versa, just death and carnage. My session is not the strongest remote viewing session I've ever done. I definitely had elements, I would say, of target contact. I'll try to keep my ego out of this as much as possible, but I'm sure I'll point out different aspects there just to make myself feel good. The weird thing is with this session, I didn't get aspects of war. I got some basic gestalts that described the area and maybe some of the soldiers there, but I definitely didn't interpret it as that. But the purpose of this video is to talk about an AOL that I had that completely derailed my session. And I want to explore this a little bit because this helps me to better process things too when I can do a video like this and talk about some of these data points and what happened, how my imagination and my conscious mind took over. And at one point, I realized what was going on. But at that point, I think I was too far gone into the session and it was too late. But overall, I do think if we were to go back and reduce it to its basic elements, the data would still connect to what happened here, as you'll see when I show you. But there's certainly key important pieces of data that I would expect to pick up on a target like this that I did not get. And I'm wondering if in part that's because of this AOL. And it's interesting how I can go back to the AOL and see if I would have just stuck to the basics and stopped following this story, I think I would have gotten much clearer data. So I'm going to show you some of my data. I'm going to show you the AOL that threw me off completely, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it afterwards. So let's take a look here. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. But I'm looking at this here as, although it wasn't my strongest session, I'm in this, especially when I do these training targets, I'm in this to learn. So this was a really good learning opportunity for me. I was excited when I realized that this had happened with my AOL here, my analytical overlay. So here's my session here. This is actually my second attempt at this session. I did a session earlier, I think it was the same day or the day before on the same target, and I just felt off and I stopped about 8 pages into it because I just wasn't feeling it. The other thing about this target, this is a very messy, chaotic target. There's a lot of things going on. I found I had trouble just grabbing onto things. It was very difficult for me to describe. And I suspect that's one of the reasons why this target was placed in this training pool, is because there was so much going on. It's tough to kind of focus in on something and collect data on it. So I didn't get really any of the war stuff, which was probably the most important stuff on there. But here we go. Starting off low level. And again, I'm not going to read all my data points because that's not the point of the video, but here it is, just my low level data here as we're going through it, describing it. I had rain, elemental, time rusted, brown. And I think that we're talking about some of these boats that were coming in and landing on the beach here is what I'm getting. Structures, hard, dome, movement, wavy, curved, vibrations. Again, the artillery that was going off. I had this AOL and it was these lines here, these waves here. Could that be ocean waves? Possibly. Could that be I think, actually, I'm thinking about it, it's the AOL is these vibrations. And this was the pattern of the vibrations that I was recording here. So this, I would think, could be consistent with the vibrations that are going on with a battle that is taking place. Going on again, rounded, movable, gurney, interconnected parts, and carry are complex, ratio, dynamic. And then I got pretty and graceful, which maybe there's aspects of this without knowledge of what war is. The ebb and flow before people start dying, that was pretty and graceful, but I think I'm stretching it there. But that's what my AI was. And I got a waterfall that could be from the ocean just pouring in and over, but waterfall was not the target. And then here's a completely missed thing here. Then I had this spillage, like a leak, a drip, a plop. Again, I could reduce this. I could probably try to justify my data. I'm not going to. It's not the point of this thing. But I had here white noise, wet, moist, damp. Again, as they're coming to the beach, that's exactly what they were feeling and what they were hearing. Uneven, grimy brown, circular elements, trickle, splash, clear, reflective. looking at the optimal position, this is where, again, I think I got a little bit lost in my imagination. I had this downward energetics that was a rush, and I just had powerful. Could that be artillery? Yeah, but this looks more like a waterfall again. I think I was stuck in my imagination with a waterfall. So I'm going to move past that. Back to the waterfall. I had a woman standing under it in a bikini. Definitely not happening there. But here's where, again, I think I start getting contact again. I had these little circles here. And at first I was interpreting them like scaly, soft, gooey, or some kind of blobs or globs. There was dripping and petrol smells. I had an AOL of oil. Now, again, that's the stuff you're going to smell when a battle's going on. Multiple lives, crowd sounds, white noise. And you have this circle, these bunch of circles here, which when I sketch, that means I'm seeing a crowd of people, but I'm not a great artist. So that's my crowd of people right there. And I'm going to share just a picture real quick that I pulled off the internet. I'm not going to share a ton of pictures, but I want to share just showing that I have some elements of target contact here. So you have that circle of people grouped together there in a cluster. And then when we look over here at this image from Omaha Beach, we have a crowd of soldiers right here. Just a crowd of people clustered together. Now, look, these guys are smiling here. So, like this guy in the back, this guy here, they obviously aren't close to the beach, I'm guessing, or hitting it yet. But this is the soldiers in the, I think they were called the U-boats that were preparing to hit the beach, and they're clustered together. And more to that in a second. So just remember that image. I'm going to come back to it as well. But back to my session here. We'll take a look at it. So you have this, and then I had flame, fire, mountainous, cool. I had an AOL of Colorado, not really, but you know, you had the beach, you had the ocean, you had the beach, and then you had a cliffside that they were then having to mount up where the Germans were shooting down at them as they're trying to take this beach here. Looking at what's most interesting aspect, I had these two objects, these structures, and I felt nervous. And I said, I feel like I keep getting a flash of circular objects, but I can't make out what it is. Faces, rocks, shells, jelly, and all the above were there. And this image here could be me looking down inside that U-boat as I'm looking down on this. I'm not sure. I can't say for sure, but that's what I was connecting to here. Because it was such a chaotic scene, this was a new experience for me as a viewer to connect to all of this stuff that was going on. It was really cool as I look back and think on it. And now here's what's cool data point here. I had that group of people encircled together. What are they doing? They're praying, they're meditating, they're chanting. Okay. Look at that image there. The people circled together. It's like I was down underneath. It's a horrible drawing, but it's like I was underneath and they were huddled together, and I'm looking up at them just in there huddling and praying. And yeah, as if I'm looking up at people looking down at me. Life forms moving together in a circle. I had an AOL of a dance, an AOL of soccer or sports. Obviously, it wasn't soccer or sports. But again, let's come back to, and I'm sure I could have taken the time to find an actual group of these men huddling. But for the purpose of this, you get the idea. Just these men here, they're clustered together. We know from historical accounts, they were praying at this point in time. They were nervous. They were preparing to go into a very dangerous, deadly battle. So there's the elements of that I'm getting. And then moving on a little bit further here in my session, what's the most important aspect of this target? Here we are. This is the AOL that completely took me off session. I wrote down football and Olmec here, but what I saw was a face with what I interpreted as like a 1940s leather helmet, like the leather football helmet, like the old, just the rounded helmets. I didn't sketch the full helmet here, but you can see it like it came down over the brow here and just had a very square, stern face. So this was a man, and there was like a helmet pressing down on his head. The image that I saw in my mind, I didn't do a very good job of drawing, but it very well could have been a helmet like this right here. That's what I felt was happening here. Now, if you look at that face, and maybe I'm giving myself feedback right now, to then come back and look at this face here, I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. I'm not saying that's the guy I saw. These soldiers all look pretty similar in their uniform and their battle rattle. But this is then what threw me off. I know the tasker, and I got excited, and I was like, ooh, I bet you I'm looking at the creation of an ancient site, which I don't know why, because the tasker has such a wide variety of targets, but my conscious mind started coming in on things that I would hope that would be in a target pool. This is where I really started to struggle with things here. And I'm back. Zigzag movement, water, cold, ice, quiet, peaceful, serene, and then babbling, trickling, cool, refreshing, and calm, healthy, enchanted. I mean, that moment was anything but. But I was confused. I said, I need more direction. Describe what I'm missing. Life, tan skin, wow, starburst. But this was symbolic. Again, I'm off in AOL land here because my thoughts are, which I was trying to shake, the creation of the statues on Easter Island. That's what I thought I was looking at, basically. And then here, where I think I'm trying to get elements of this target, though. So I'm writing ancient, older, like BC, brown skin, and I heard tink, tink, I was interpreting it as a stone chisel. But what I think this is, if you've ever seen Saving Private Ryan, when they're finished firing through their rounds in their rifle, there was like a metallic ping sound that would sound off. So I kept hearing that during this portion of my session. I had a man climbing a vertical structure with a tool in his hand and that pink, pink sound. So what I think this data point is are the soldiers with rifles. The ping, ping is the metallic sounds of the rifles going off as they're trying to scale this cliff here on Omaha Beach. But my AOL mind is talking about Olmec statues in an ancient civilization. So that's where my imagination took me and completely derailed my session. But reducing the basics of it, and I'm not justifying my data saying, hey, this was a good session. This was not a good session. I want to be clear about that. But I'm looking at the underlying elements that my conscious mind is now corrupting as I'm getting to this. Again, flat, hard levels. Again, construction and building, movement, materials. Here it is, clink. I AOL it as hammer sounds and stone chisels. High verticals, archways, rounded, hard, soft, stone, grass, earth smells, mud, wet, rain, gross, hard conditions, thunder. That could have been thunder. I mean, that could have been explosions and artillery going off. Tired, sore. And then I went, this story is flowing too easily. Early man using primitive tools to construct a stone monument or structure. AOLs. So I recognized it right there because it was a similar process to when I'm writing a story. I saw the whole story and then once I got the AOL of the Olmecs, I thought, oh, people building these ancient structures. And that's what the elements I was starting to describe. It was mostly imagination. So then I tried to get back and just describe, and that's the challenge sometimes remote viewing is to describe and not name. And that's something I'm working on really hard right now. Back hard, wet, soggy, rain sounds, cool and refreshing. I don't think it was refreshing, but all those other things were probably relevant. What's the main purpose or function of this target? To move down, to bevel, carve, emboss, man-made, lean, learn, focus, foresight. So again, I still had this image in my mind of this terraced or stepped landscape that was being built. So although I thought I got out of my AOL, I'm still pulling elements of it. Now I have this sketch here. And I had movement, rushing, valley, fortitude, strength, malignant, calm, floating, voices, chanting. All of that could be connected to an invasion on Omaha, but I've pretty much derailed at this point. Warehouse movement, organization, fortitude, strength, malignant, fight, repel, which definitely are elements that tie into that battle, that encounter under the word construction here. And then fortitude, it was attitudes, align, organize, strength, work together, focus, concealment, judgment. Again, all things that would be relevant on the battlefield. Now, here we go. My stage 6 sketch. Let's look at the basic elements here. I had this, and I wrote down an AOL Alamo job site. So I'm still sticking with that older construction of a structure. But looking at the basics here, what do we have? We have this is water down here. I have people with objects on the lower lying area holding a long tool. I interpreted it as a hammer, but it could have been a rifle. And then I drew this guy up top carrying this long thing. I thought maybe it was long sticks or something. This could be someone with the high ground holding a rifle. So even though I got lost in an AOL, which I did, there are still some elements that are trying to come through here. And I think we have that there. I'm not trying to justify my data. The point is to show you how my AOL pulled me off target here. What did I write here as my reflections here? It feels like there's so much happening at this target, very complex, very busy. And my mind started to create a story of ancient people building something, but I got a sense of a variety of AOLs, ranging from a football game to a soccer game, a dance, the construction of an ancient site, Olmec heads. I had visuals of brown-skinned people with long dark hair wearing brown bottoms, standing on ladders or scaffolding, working on a hard stone structure using primitive tools. I enjoyed the experience, but felt off from the beginning of my first session. I had trouble interpreting some of my ideograms as well. Tall structure with downward energetics, similar to a waterfall. Life felt female at first, but surrounded by other life. So this was a really hard session for me. Maybe I just had an off day. I think also due to the chaotic nature of the target itself. That's an intense thing to describe. And I didn't get, I think, some of the key elements where I could sit here and say, hey, this was a really good session. But it was a really neat learning opportunity for me because I have a better feel for what my imagination feels like, how easily that data flowed as I'm trying to quickly record certain things. And sometimes I get good data flows when I'm on target or connected to the signal line as a remote viewer. But this did feel different, and I recognized that in my session. So again, ultimately not a great session, but that wasn't the point of sharing this video, just to show you how, some of these AOLs I got, especially that once I saw that face, that very stern, somber face, how I went off on this tangent and I had trouble disconnecting my mind, my conscious mind, from just getting the basic gestalts of the data. Moving forward, what else could I do? Maybe just stop the session and revisit it if I recognize something like that again. But I like to be able to work through that as a viewer in session ultimately. And I really think the key is to remind yourself to come back to the basics. Declare your AOL, get it out, because I found myself wanting to, even though I know I shouldn't name the target, I was trying to name the target in my AOLs, telling myself I want to clear this, but also saying, just in case this is what it is, I want to say that I named what the target was and get that little ego party. So I'm still working through that as well, but I think all of those elements as points of growth for me definitely contributed to me going off target. So have you experienced this before? Any thoughts? How do you work through these challenges with AOLs? Any advice that you have would be greatly appreciated. And let me know your thoughts. So thank you, as always, for watching and for your continued support. Dennis Nappy II with 6th Sense Media. Remember to never stop questioning, keep an open mind, and let your intuition be your guide. Thanks.